The dream was a forest near the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. Huang Zuantian opened his eyes and saw that it was Hanju. He immediately stood up and bowed. Master, Huang Zuantian said respectfully. Hanju asked, why did you cut off the providence of the heavenly Tao recently? He did not ask about life directly, as if he did not know the truth. Speaking of this, he wished that there was a hole in the ground for him to hide in. Defeated by a few lives? What realm? Primordial Chaos Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. Hanju was speechless. Huang Zuantian was ashamed and trembling. He was busy fighting for power. It had been too long since he had fought with someone at the same realm. If he was not careful during the battle, he would be sealed by the other party. Thinking back, he felt so weak. Huang Zuantian was extremely embarrassed. He wanted to say that he was also talented. Back then, he was also an invincible existence in the mortal world until he met Hanju. He was too ashamed to say anything. He could only bury his face and remain silent. In that case, you can hide in the Life faction, just like how you hid in the Jess school. Can you do that? Hanju asked. Huang Zuantian suddenly looked up and said, that's what I think. I'll make up for it. Hanju said, protect yourself. If there's a chance, I'll think of a way to save you. Don't! I'll be really useless if I need your help. Let me hide in the Life faction. If you want to know anything in the future, I can help you obtain information. Perhaps I can give you a surprise. Huang Zuantian did not say this. After all, the chaos was different from the heavenly Tao. Compared to the heavenly Tao, the chaos was less calculative. It was more about survival of the fittest. There's still a chance things may go wrong. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if Huang Zuantian was killed by a brute? Hanju said, all right, that's all. The dream ended. Hanju opened his eyes helplessly. It had to be said that life was indeed a little powerful. Li Daokong, Shi Dudao, Ancestor Shi Tian, and Huang Zuantian were all captured. Just with the heavenly Tao alone, in the entire chaos, how much power had the first Life Black Sovereign accumulated? Why aren't there any powerful Great Tao supremacies going up to find trouble with the first Life Black Sovereign? They're all wandering around me. Hanju felt bitter. Perhaps the first Life Black Sovereign was more dangerous than him, but this fellow had a way to escape. Hanju continued reading the emails. It was all opportunities and beatings. They couldn't attract his attention anymore. Hanju's gaze landed on the 100-peak Immortal River. He counted with his fingers and shook his head with a smile. They wanted to find Hanju together because they guessed that once they found him, they would have to leave the 100-peak Immortal River. More than 1,000,000 years had passed. These guys were close and could not bear to leave each other behind. Not bad. Under Hanju, the disciples formed different circles. Fortunately, there were no conflicts for the time being. It was mainly because the heavenly Tao and the hidden sect were both developing and could still grow, so there were no conflicts. Hanju was never afraid of internal strife among his disciples. He could always throw them into the primordial heavenly prison. At this moment, Hanju felt an extremely terrifying aura. Chaotic Fiend Celestial, Red Fate. Hanju immediately used the simulation trial to detect her existence. Red Fate, late-stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm, Chaotic Fiend Celestial. She has a favorable impression of you because you killed the Despair Tao Spirit. Current favorability, 3 stars. This favorability appeared when the Fiend Celestials gathered. Hanju didn't care at that time. Woman, you deliberately approached me. You must have a motive. Wasn't she here now? Hanju directly started the simulation trial. 3 breaths later, he opened his eyes and frowned. He entered the simulation trial again. A breath later, he opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief. Killing intent suddenly burst out from Hanju's eyes. Should he just kill this fellow? To avoid causing trouble for me? No, the other party did not have any hatred towards him. How could he kill her? Hanju never killed his friends. Moreover, killing Red Fate would definitely attract the chaotic fiend Celestial's attention. It would be harmful but not beneficial. Fine, then. Hanju created a clone and went to see her. Red Fate was waiting in the dark forbidden zone. Seeing Hanju appear, she smiled like a flower, enough to topple all living beings. However, in his eyes, her smile was so cunning. Hanju asked, "Why are you here, fellow Taoist Red Fate?" Red Fate covered his mouth and laughed. "Didn't you invite me?" Fellow Taoist Han appeared very quickly. "I thought I still had to wait for a while. The Heavenly Tao is really a good place. Even we great Tao sages can't enter without permission." Hanju smiled. "Then there has to be a reason why you came to visit me, right?" What did she mean? You still want to barge in? Hanju almost pulled out his axe. The reason is that I want to be close to fellow Taoist Han. After living for so many years, only fellow Taoist Han suits my taste. You're also a chaotic fiend celestial, so I naturally want to be close to you. Red Fate smiled and pretended to be coy. Hanju was not confused. They were all old foxes who had been around for billions of years. Even if what she said was true, she probably wanted to cozy up to him. However, Hanju was afraid of trouble. Hanju said, "I already have a Tao companion, and there's more than one. I've had countless fun in the past and have seen through the mortal world. That's why I'm cultivating so diligently today. I don't need a Tao companion anymore. Thank you for your favor, fellow Taoist Red Fate." Red Fate smiled. "It's fine. I don't care. Fellow Taoist Han, don't be in a hurry to refuse. What if you suddenly change your mind in the future?" Hanju chuckled. "We'll talk about it in the future." "Then, are you going?" "Forget it. It's too far from the Heavenly Tao. I'm afraid of death." "You're afraid that I'll harm you? How is that possible?" "Even if fellow Taoist Red Fate doesn't harm me, what if I encounter enemies? What if I encounter a great Tao Supreme on the way and he doesn't like the two of us?" "Your thoughts are really strange. How can a great Tao Supreme be so easy to encounter? Furthermore, why would they attack without caring about karma?" Red Fate shook her head and laughed, feeling that he was more and more interesting. Hanju was helpless. Since she had already said so, how could he not understand? Must they fall out? Hanju and Red Fate exchanged a few pleasantries. Seeing that he was determined not to go out, she could only give up. With that, she cupped her hands and left. Hanju secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Indeed, dealing with women was the most tiring. Hanju's clone returned to the Heavenly Tao and quickly entered his main body, disappearing. Hanju couldn't be bothered to deduce Red Fate's true intentions. He just didn't want to go out. He closed his eyes and continued cultivating. Next, he had to break through to the late-stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm. It had been nearly 600,000 years since his last breakthrough. Hanju felt that time passed very quickly. It was much faster than the previous 600,000 years. Perhaps this was life. The older he got, the faster time passed. Outside the 33rd heaven, Universal Hall. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu, Heavenly Venerate Wufa, Pan Xin, Chou Shilai, Sept Master Tianju, and Fang Liang gathered here. Pan Xin recounted what had happened in the chaos recently, causing the other sages to frown. The Dark Forbidden Lord had appeared. This name was like thunder to them. It was said that the reason why the heavenly Tao restarted back then was that the Dark Forbidden Lord had forced Sage Fated Secrets into a corner. It could be said that the Dark Forbidden Lord manipulated everything behind the previous immeasurable calamity. They had also suspected that Hanju was related to the Dark Forbidden Lord, but on careful thought, there was no logic. Hanju also claimed to have been cursed by the Dark Forbidden Lord. Heavenly Venerate Wufa sighed. The Dark Forbidden Lord is really powerful. He can even subdue Divine Lord Peacock. This fellow is famous for being arrogant. He doesn't care about any great Tao sage. Sect Master Tianju frowned. We don't know how much power the Dark Forbidden Lord has accumulated, but there have always been remnants of the Darkness sect in the Immortal World and the Myriad Worlds. Jing Tiangong even brought a group of trusted aides to the chaos. This is only the heavenly Tao. In the entire chaos, its power probably far exceeds our expectations. The Dark Forbidden Lord was a saber hanging above the heavenly Tao. Why? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, other than being careful of the Dark Forbidden Lord, there's another thing. Huang Zuntian was captured like Li Daokong and Shi Du Dao. His heavenly Tao Providence was severed. Let's choose the new sage from the Jia school. Sect Master Tianju's expression was ugly as he nodded slightly. He still thought highly of Huang Zuntian, but he had no choice. The current heavenly Tao was not suitable to fight with life. Pan Xian cursed, damn it, they're too arrogant. If not for the fact that we have to consider the heavenly Tao, I really want to destroy them. The heavenly Tao needed to develop in the chaos. Once an all-out war broke out, many heavenly Tao living beings wandering outside would definitely be affected. Even if the heavenly Tao did not lose, it would stop developing for a long time in the future and even decline. Should we tell Grandmaster about this? Fang Liang asked. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, there's no need. Huang Zuntian is not a disciple of the hidden sect. As for the Dark Forbidden Lord, we can't even find him. Telling fellow Taoist Han will only increase his worries and affect his cultivation. The heavenly Tao doesn't rely on current unity, but fellow Taoist Han's strength. You should know this. The sages nodded. Without Hanju, how could they be united? Without Hanju, even if they were united, how many calamities could they survive? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, the immeasurable calamity is about to begin. Everyone, if you have the time, keep an eye on the immortal world to prevent some new sages from not knowing the rules. Heavenly Venerate Wufa smiled. It's good if someone doesn't know the rules. Let's kill the chicken to warn the monkeys. Sect Master Tianju, Pan Xian, Fang Liang, and Qiu Shilai also smiled. As more and more heavenly Tao sages appeared, the hierarchy had also been formed. Although they were at the same realm, the status of the old school sages was higher than the new sages. The sages continued to discuss the situation of the chaos. Under the blue sky, the mountains surrounded a huge lake. The surface of the lake was filled with mist, like a paradise. By the lake, the old man in the raincoat, Lao Dan, leaned against the water buffalo lying on the grass. The fishing rod was very long and sank into the mist. Dao Sovereign, Zhao Xianyuan, and Jiang Yi sat not far away. Lao Dan snorted. What's the hurry? Your cultivation levels are too weak. You won't be able to protect the little golden crow if you leave now. Jiang Yi was dissatisfied. So be it. Why do you have to say little? I'm older than you. Lao Dan chuckled. Dao Sovereign asked, Senior, where is this world? The spirit chi is not bad. Almost half of our 100-peak immortal river. He did not say this. Lao Dan said proudly, this is the boundless world. It forms a world of its own, but there are no living beings here. My Dao field contains boundless spirit chi, Kane chi, and even chaotic chi. You three brats are really lucky. Zhao Shenyuan rolled his eyes. Jiang Yi smiled. No, the divine young indestructible body is indeed powerful. It won't be long before I can recover the primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal Dao fruit. Dao Sovereign nodded, his eyes filled with relief. Jiang Yi was clearly older than them, but among the three of them, he was like the third brother. Dao Sovereign and Zhao Shenyuan would give in to him. By the way, you still have to enter the primordial world's illusion and experience the divine investiture war 5,000 years later. Your opponents might be sages or even the Dao ancestor. Be prepared. Lao Dan's voice floated over, causing Dao Sovereign and the other two to be moved. Dao ancestor. They did not panic. Instead, they were excited. Lao Dan noticed their expressions and sighed. It had to be said that these three brats were indeed bold. Once nurtured well, they would definitely be geniuses who stirred up the chaos in the future. Lao Dan couldn't help but think of Hanju. He had never seen him, but he had heard of the divine might heavenly sage in the chaos. In addition to Dao Sovereign and the other two, how could he not know Hanju? This child was talented and had so many talented but loyal disciples. What kind of person was he? Lao Dan has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 1 star. This notification appeared in front of Hanju, who was cultivating. He didn't care and continued cultivating. He might still be curious if Laozi's main body had a favorable impression of him. Time passed. Year after year passed. He opened his eyes and adjusted his state of mind. He was finally about to break through. If he didn't break through now, Hanju would think that he was mediocre. Should he use his lifespan before breaking through? It would be refreshed, anyway. Hanju had lost half of his lifespan when he used the Mystical Destiny book, but he still had more than 15 nonillion years of lifespan. Who should he use it on? According to the hatred points, it was definitely the first life Black Sovereign. However, Hanju still wanted to use the first life Black Sovereign to attract the firepower of the chaos, giving the heavenly Dao and him time to develop. Forget it, I'll curse. He did not want to keep poaching from the heavenly Dao. Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing the first life Black Sovereign. 5 days later, his lifespan began to decrease. As he cursed, he hesitated. How much lifespan should he use this time? Perhaps septillion years of lifespan? It was barely anything. Would he be cursed to death? He could try. As Hanju thought silently, the black light of the Book of Misfortune shone in the Taoist temple, looking extremely sinister and terrifying. In a dark palace, the first life Black Sovereign was circulating his energy to resist the curse. He still maintained his black shadow image and concealed his true body. Humph, again? I want to see if you can hurt me this time. First life Black Sovereign snorted coldly as he began to use the karma mystical power he had learned previously to especially resist the curse. He waved his hands slowly and with some profound pattern, he gradually stirred up dazzling afterimages. At this moment, his expression changed. The curse power suddenly strengthened. It was much stronger than before, and it was still strengthening. First life Black Sovereign was shocked to discover that his mystical power was useless. Damn it, that dog lied to me. This mystical power can't block it at all. First life Black Sovereign panicked. He had concluded that once the curse lasted for more than 5 days, it meant that the Dark Forbidden had taken the initiative to kill. Why? Could it be because he had recently deliberately defamed the Dark Forbidden Lord? The first life Black Sovereign was uneasy. After living for countless years, this was the first time he had encountered such a terrifying opponent. He didn't even know who the other party was. First Life Black Sovereign could only try his best to block and pray in his heart. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju stared at his lifespan and maintained his full strength. He had already lost a quadrillion years of his lifespan. Our quadrillion years of lifespan. Quadrillion years of lifespan. Because of your curse, the Tao heart of your enemy, the First Life Black Sovereign, cracked. Continue. 7 quadrillion years. 9 quadrillion years. 10 quadrillion years. Get latest of Chpters on NV, E, LBJ and CM. Because of your curse, the Tao heart of your enemy, the First Life Black Sovereign, was damaged. His cultivation was damaged and his soul is in chaos. Forget it. This fellow was done for. Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune. He was hesitating if he should visit the First Life Black Sovereign in his dreams. It depended on his attitude. Hanju immediately used the Dark Nightmare and met the First Life Black Sovereign in the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. The dream was a void where only the two of them existed. The First Life Black Sovereign opened his eyes. Both sides were in the form of black shadows, but the Dark Forbidden Lord was surrounded by black flames and looked even stranger. The image of the enemy that Divine Lord Xin had sent him before his death was the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Hanju stared at him coldly and didn't say anything. Both sides fell silent. Regarding the Dark Forbidden Lord, the First Life Black Sovereign naturally hated him and was very angry. However, logic told him not to act recklessly. He couldn't resist the curse of the Dark Forbidden Lord at all. After a long while, First Life Black Sovereign asked in a low voice, "What do you want, fellow Taoist?" Hanju asked in a hoarse voice, "First Life Black Sovereign, what do you want?" First Life Black Sovereign was shocked. He had always been hiding his identity. How did the other party know his Tao title? Could it also be an ancient existence? The First Life Black Sovereign panicked. Figures flashed through his mind. They were all existences older than the heavenly Tao. Hanju suddenly removed the dream. He opened his eyes and smiled thoughtfully. He had already felt the chaos in the First Life Black Sovereign's heart. Enough! The more he said, the more mistakes he would make. Next, it depended on what the First Life Black Sovereign would do. Hanju suddenly felt melancholic again. He still had too few enemies. It was very difficult to find someone to vent to. Hanju sighed and could only prepare to break through. On the peak of Buzhou Divine Mountain, Hanyu and the woman in green stood at the edge of the cliff looking down the mountain. The sea of clouds covered the scenery below. The woman in green asked curiously, "Senior, what are you thinking?" Hanyu said softly, "After so many years, is the hatred in your heart still there?" The woman in green frowned and replied, "I'm ashamed to say this, but it's indeed much fainter." She didn't know if her change was correct. Did she see through the mortal world or was she afraid of it? Did she put down all her obsessions to protect herself? You've been on this mountain for so long and are isolated from the world. What do you think of the world now? Hanyu asked. His eyes were melancholic, and it was unknown what he was thinking. The green-robed woman said, "A day in heaven is a year on earth." This is not a lie. From the perspective of a lifetime, the suffering of a person indeed overshadows everything. However, from the perspective of 100 lifetimes and 10,000 lifetimes, one will die in the end. What is the pain of a lifetime? For mortals to float in the cycle of reincarnation is great suffering in itself. It is greater than any suffering in the world. Senior, why do you think humans exist? Why do those mortals without cultivation potential exist? Is this world a prison? But if cultivators make a mistake, they have to enter the cycle of reincarnation to suffer? Hanyu glanced at her and said, "Actually, I'm not sure either. But I know one thing. Destiny exists. What is fate? It is the fate that is determined from birth." The reason why he was worried was that he saw Qinling suffering. From the looks of it, Qinling had suffered too much in this life. It was so bitter that Hanyu couldn't stand it anymore. However, Hanyu knew that this was only a calamity. After the calamity, Qinling could transcend and obtain a greater future. The conflict caused by the difference made Hanyu very confused. All living beings were only a game of chess for sages? Then, whose pawn were the sages? Who was manipulating everything from the unknown? Was he smiling or crying? Or perhaps he was indifferent. That chance of survival might be a hint of pity. Hanyu sighed. The woman in green did not understand. Who was he referring to? Hanyu turned around and walked towards the old tree. He smiled and said, "Continue cultivating. No matter what, you are happy and carefree now. Seize the time well and fight for that trace of life for yourself." The woman in green hurriedly followed and smiled. "Cultivation doesn't matter to me. Being by your side all day long is my greatest satisfaction. I don't need you to serve me. What have you done for me all these years?" "That's because you don't need it, but my intentions are true." "Huh." Hanyu sat under the old tree and closed his eyes to cultivate. As for the woman in green, he couldn't be bothered. Qinling's encounter stimulated Hanyu. He knew very well that if not for his ancestor, he would probably be a pawn in the mortal world. How could he be so free on Buzhou Divine Mountain that no one dared to disturb him? He couldn't let his ancestor down. 5,000 years later, Hanju finally broke through. Late-stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm. As he consolidated his cultivation, he checked his attributes list. Name, Hanju. Lifespan, 1345289.03299亿999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999 199,999,999. Race, primordial fiend celestial, immeasurable emperor. Cultivation, late stage great Tao primordial chaos realm, perfect sage. Technique, primordial chaos reincarnation great Tao, heavenly cycle body tempering. Great Tao of life and death, great Tao of karma, great Tao of extreme origin. Not bad. Hanju was very satisfied. His lifespan should increase by leaps and bounds when he reached the great Tao Supreme Realm. Hanju looked forward to that day. It took nearly 700,000 years to reach the late stage, and it would probably take 1,000,000 years to reach the perfected stage. There was still a long way to go. It took Hanju 500 years to consolidate his cultivation. It took another 300 years. He had newly learned 300 fiend celestial Dharma idols, accumulating 1,149. His strength had increased greatly. At Hanju's realm, his dharmic powers were endless. Therefore, the more fiend celestial Dharma idols there were, the more Hanju's strength increased. It seemed like he had only broken through a minor realm, but his strength had changed drastically. It had to be said that the stellar primordial body was indeed powerful. It could control so many Dharma idols at once. There was a chaotic origin stone in the primordial world that could constantly increase the chaotic chi. However, the primordial world itself was producing the nebulous primordial chi. At first, the two sides were small and did not affect each other. Now, the nebulous primordial chi occupied most of the primordial world, and it was still gradually corroding the chaotic chi. Hanju now felt that the chaotic origin stone might affect the nebulous primordial chi, so he wanted to take it out after he found a place for the third Tao field. Creating a world in his body sounded wonderful and impressive, but in fact, it had created a weakness for him. Would the enemy attack him through this world? Hanju didn't want to have a weakness. Then, he began the simulation trial. The target was still the foolish sword sage. 1,000 foolish sword sages. Hanju's goal was to be absolutely invincible in the same realm. To easily insta-kill many enemies no matter how there were. He hoped that before he broke through to the Great Tao Supreme Realm, he could already challenge 10,000 foolish sword sages or even more. An hour later, Hanju continued the second simulation trial. In the mysterious plain, there was an ocean below the sky. A majestic figure appeared at the end of the sea. Divine light billions of feet behind him was dazzling. It was the Holy Mother of Order. The divine robed Taoist descended from the sky and landed in front of the Holy Mother of Order. He cupped his hands and bowed. May I know why the Holy Mother called me here? The divine robed Taoist asked with a smile. He didn't seem to be affected by the primordial heavenly prison and was as arrogant as ever. The Holy Mother of Order said, "It's about the primordial fiend celestial. Not long ago, a living being consumed the primordial pill and obtained the power of the primordial fiend celestial. It shook the great Tao Providence divine authority of the chaos. The divine authority was automatically on guard, so it gave birth to 10,000 divine authority generals." Divine authority generals? The divine robed Taoist frowned. How's their cultivation? The Holy Mother of Order said, "It's equivalent to 10,000 great Tao sages. This power can definitely dominate the chaos. This is the power of the great Tao Providence divine authority. Why is there peace in the chaos? If you stop it, you will be judged to be harming the chaos. Do you understand?" The divine robed Taoist's eyelids twitched. 10,000 great Tao sages. Too ridiculous. There might not even be 1,000 great Tao sages in the chaos. This was the accumulation of countless years. This was enough to show how terrifying the power of the great Tao divine authority was. It was enough to cleanse the chaos. The divine robed Taoist said, "Thank you for your reminder, Holy Mother. I'll remember it." The Holy Mother of Order asked, "Have you let go of your hatred for the heavenly Tao?" The divine robed Taoist smiled. "There's no hatred. I'm just doing this for benefits. Since I can't defeat him, I naturally have to let it go. Not only that, but I've also befriended him. In the future, we can rely on each other. It can be considered a blessing in disguise." The divine robed Taoist said disdainfully, "Life is stupid. They can't rely on strength if they want to overturn the chaos. They don't even know what the great Tao Providence divine authority is." "Yes, that's all," the Holy Mother of Order responded. The divine robed Taoist bowed and left, quickly disappearing. Not long after, the space above the sea fluctuated violently and a figure appeared. It was Laozi. Laozi's expression was indifferent. He looked at the Holy Mother of Order and said, "Holy Mother, can you deduce why the primordial pill failed?" The Holy Mother of Order said, "Don't you believe in indifference and non-emotion? Why are you asking about this? That is only a cultivation attitude. The failure of the primordial pill might signal a calamity. It will affect all cultivators," Laozi replied calmly without any fluctuation in his tone. The Holy Mother of Order said, "I don't know why it failed, but a supreme existence said that the primordial fiend celestial who stirred up the great Tao immeasurable calamity has yet to be born." Laozi was deep in thought. Laozi said, "Thank you for your guidance, Holy Mother." With that, he turned around and prepared to leave. In an instant, the clouds in the sky stopped moving. With his back facing the Holy Mother of Order, Laozi asked, "The Holy Mother does not enter karma or fate. Why do you care about the Tao ancestors' fate?" The world fell into silence. inside the 100-peak Immortal River. Hanju ended the simulation trial. After hundreds of battles, he could finally easily kill 1,000 foolish sword sages. He even tried to challenge 2,000. Although it was difficult, he was not helpless. At the very least, fighting a foolish sword sage alone was not a problem. In a good mood, Hanju began to preach the Tao to the millions of disciples in the 100-peak Immortal River. This lecture lasted for 100 years. Then, Hanju didn't resume cultivation immediately. Instead, he sent out a trace of his soul thought and headed to the immortal world. The immeasurable calamity was about to begin. He wanted to take a look. His soul thought transformed into his main body and his cultivation level was controlled at the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. This cultivation was only on the surface. Even a pseudo-sage couldn't hurt his soul thought. Hanju planned to go to the Divine Palace to take a look. The protagonist of the calamity, Qinling, was staying there. Speaking of which, Hanju still remembered the Divine Palace. Before the previous calamity, the Divine Palace was a place where geniuses gathered in the immortal world. It still existed today. Of course, this was all thanks to him. Otherwise, how could Zhang Guxing have risen up? Hanju flew forward. He suddenly thought of Han Tuo's mother. Her soul had been sealed for so many years. Should he let her out and reincarnate? It was not that he could not. The current Hanju no longer needed to worry too much. In the heavenly Tao, no one could hurt the people he wanted to protect. Next time, I guess. Hanju would release her the next time he traveled the immortal world. Apart from looking at the Divine Palace, Hanju also planned to go to the Netherworld to see his eldest disciple and Han Tuo's daughter, Han Xingyuan. Han Tuo had a son and a daughter. His son established the Han family and was Han Yu's ancestor. His daughter, Han Xingyuan, had been busy cultivating and later joined the Netherworld. Under young Tiandong's care, she was already a female ghost deity and had a very high status. Along the way, Hanju didn't fly too fast and took a look at the current situation of the immortal world. It had been hundreds of thousands of years since he last traveled the immortal world. It was naturally different now. Hanju noticed that there were already more than 3,000 Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals in the immortal world. This did not include the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals in the chaos. There were also hundreds of pseudo-sages. Not bad. Several months later, Hanju finally arrived at the Divine Palace. The Divine Palace was located in the sky. The palace was placed above the clouds. There were layers after layers of magnificent palaces as far as the eye could see. Hanju secretly used the power of the concealment fiend Celestial and disappeared without a trace. He found Qinling's aura and quickly came to his courtyard. After more than 100,000 years, Qinling was already an immortal emperor, but his status in the Divine Palace was not high. Because his potential was average, his residence was not considered high. It could only be said to be average. Qinling was sitting on the steps and looking at the cauldron in front of him with a depressed expression. Why is this Emperor Essence pill so difficult to refine? Qinling muttered to himself, feeling a little discouraged. Hanju suddenly appeared and smiled. It means that you don't have the talent to refine. Pills. Shocked, Qinling suddenly stood up and asked angrily, "Who are you?" Hanju walked around the cauldron and came to his side. He smiled and said, "Don't be nervous. I'm also a disciple of the Divine Palace. I've only heard of your deeds and came to take a look." Qinling snorted and mocked himself. "You want to see me, a mediocre prodigy who relies on pills?" His potential was actually not bad, but he was definitely at the bottom in the Divine Palace. Many disciples his age had already stepped into the deity realm. His enemy was also a prodigy in the Buddhist sect. He had already reached the Zenith Heaven realm 10,000 years ago. The difference between the two became greater and greater. Qinling felt despair every time he thought about this. Could he really take revenge? Hanju smiled. Your potential is mediocre, but you're persistent. The mighty figures in the world are all tenacious and persistent. New SD rise at Nivel bin. Ko Qinling was in a good mood and no longer pulled a long face. He let Hanju walk to the stone table at the side and chat. After the two of them sat down, Qinling asked curiously, "Brother, what's your name?" Although the Divine Palace has countless disciples, there aren't many as handsome as you. Rather, there's no one. Hanju smiled and said, "My name is Liu Bei. I'm just good looking." Liu Bei? Qinling thought to himself. He had never heard of him. In other words, the other party was not a top prodigy. Thinking of this, Qinling relaxed. They could be friends as long as the difference in potential was not great. He would never think that Hanju was not a disciple of the Divine Palace. The Divine Palace was a top-notch Providence sect in the world. They had sages at the top. Who would dare to infiltrate and cause trouble? The two of them began to chat. They chatted about everything from ancient legends to the mortal world. The more Qinling chatted, the happier he became. Very few people suited his taste. Several hours later, Hanju smiled and asked, "Do you want me to help you see why your pills failed?" Brother Liu also knows alchemy? A little. Please. Qinling immediately stood up in anticipation. Hanju didn't know alchemy, but with his cultivation realm, he secretly cast a spell and the pill was quickly born. It was that simple. However, he deliberately cast a spell with an unfathomable gesture, causing Qinling to exclaim in admiration. 5 minutes later, the Emperor Essence pill flew out of the cauldron and landed in Qinling's hand. Qinling's hands trembled as he muttered, "What dense immortal Emperor Essence Qi! How powerful!" Hanju said smugly, "How about it? I'm worthy of you calling me Big Brother." Yes. Yes. Big Brother Liu. Brother, please teach me. This technique is not easy to teach. It's a technique passed down in the family and can't be taught to others.